But you know, we was explaining this person when they bring forth, said, what happened to us? Well, that newborn baby has an excitement in their life. They're just full of life and full of peace. And see, that's what happens when you first get saved. Newborn baby, full of Jesus, just comes in, and there's a shot of love and excitement put in your life. And it just lifts you up, and you have that, and that newborn baby inside of you. Well, as you sit under ministries, let's say maybe you only come twice a month. You get a little knowledge in there, so you begin to grow just a little bit. But with that little bit of knowledge, you've exposed yourself to growing out into the world and growing into the attacks that the enemy's bringing. And without understanding how the enemy attacks, what he's going to come at, like we said, even understanding that some people have been in church 40 years and are still babes, and we get mad at them or get upset because of what they said. If we'd have had to understand if they were a babe, we wouldn't have said a word, because who was going to get mad at a baby that poops in its diaper? Which one of you is going to get mad at one? None of us. So see, if we had that understanding then, we wouldn't have got upset and said, I ain't talking to them for 3 weeks. Get our heart wounded, get it hurt. The trees that we talked about that's been through storms and limb broke off, if we'd have had that understanding then, we wouldn't have got that scarred heart. We wouldn't have got those situations. So see how important knowledge is to us. And as we've stressed many times, how important is it to have good ground under the anointing of God whenever the Word's preached, taught, or you read it? How important is it to really get the deep understanding? It's wonderful to know that people may read through their whole Bible the whole year, but do they get any understanding and knowledge out of it? Or do they just skim through it and read it and don't get it? Because clearly he's saying right here that it's a heart problem. And it's been a heart problem since Adam and Eve. It's been a heart problem. If you read through all the situations, Adam and Eve failed because of a heart condition. The enemy came in. In chapter 2, you'll read that God gave them orders, said you can eat anything in this garden but the tree of knowledge. Don't do it. Well, in chapter 3, the serpent comes in, enemy comes in, and starts to fool her and say, he said you could have everything else. Why won't you have this one? I mean, if you get this one, you'll become like him. You'll be able to see things the way God sees it. So why don't you try it? See, the serpent beguiled, and that's what we said, took away simplicity of Christ. Simple, one rule, and they broke it. See how it breaks down and how it goes. The thoughts come into the mind. Our carnal thoughts, the enemy's thoughts. All these situations come into our mind. It's the gateway to the heart. Then once it gets into the heart, action's going to take place. Because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Where your treasure is, there your heart be, etc. So once that enemy got Eve thinking about that tree, and she kept looking at them apples and things, I could just imagine in her heart saying, well, it really couldn't hurt for me just to try it. I mean, that's just one little fruit. What's the big deal? What's the big deal about that? Come on, what's it really going to hurt? And look what it did. Like God said, if you eat of this tree, you're going to die. And that was the sentence for all of us. The sentence, from dust you came, from dust you will return. Because of that. So see, it's been a heart problem from the very creation of mankind. It's been a heart condition that has caused this. And this is what God is trying to do. He's saying this is what's going on. This is what has happened because of a lack of knowledge. Of when you got that or got part of the knowledge, just got pieces of it. The enemy has come in and attacked, and he has got your heart into a place that what the Bible calls foreskin, hardness of heart. We pull back, iniquity abound, love of many wax cold. Whatever the reason is, it's caused us to pull back to where our heart's back. We do not realize how easy it is, and we'll show you the scriptures and we'll go over them again, because we've got to get this understanding and this knowledge. We've got to get the understanding. We've got to get it. If we do not get this, if we do not get the understanding, we're not going to be able to defeat the enemy, be able to come out of the place right now, because I know there's many of you right now that's just down about things. Tough 2011. It's tough things about a church that seems like, well, what are we going to do? Oh my goodness, what are we going to do? When you look around with your carnal eye, it looks impossible. When you look around with your carnal mind, it looks impossible. Even though God has brought forth message after message, and different people saying, yes, it will. Yes, it will. Even our last visiting minister, Mike, said, yes, it will. Yes, it will. But it's going to take more than just 3 licks, is what he said, striking with the arrows. It's going to take more than just a little bit. It's going to take putting in there and digging in and fighting for it. Because the enemy is getting such an upper hand. If you just open up your eyes, your spiritual eyes, and take time to just really look around in this world, the enemy is gaining ground every day. He is gaining ground everywhere, in our churches, in the world. More drug addicts, more situations getting bad. Everywhere you look, it is bad as Nehemiah's times, that the gates are tore down, the walls are tore down. It's getting worse. If you would just open up your eyes and see, things are not getting better, they're getting worse. And the church has got to make up its mind across this world. We're either going to sit back with our heart condition and allow the enemy to continue to run wild, or grab hold of the Scriptures that Jesus told Peter, the gates of hell cannot prevail against my church, and start fighting back and winning. You got to start getting angry at the enemy and what he's doing to the people of this world and to you, and start fighting back. That's why he said you got to love the one and hate the other. Or you got to hold on to the one and despise the other. It's time to quit holding on to God and just barely despising the enemy. It's time to start really loving God and start hating the enemy and putting him in his place. But the only way we're going to be able to do that is recognize what's really going on and really get the understanding of what really happened and what it's going to take to beat it. It's going to take fighting back for what you want. You're going to have to get a vision. Without a vision, my people perish. The problem, we said, came because we become captive from a lack of knowledge. We'll even go there and show you these things. But today's present is a lack of vision, a lack of sight, a lack of drive. Vision, as we can picture, is you got a goal and you're going for it. Our goal should be to have an intimate relationship with God and fight this enemy back to help people to have life and have it more abundantly, even in ourselves. And we ought to be recognizing that we have not in 2011 had such an abundant life. A lot of us, we struggle day after day to even get ourselves up a lot of times, to push ourselves to do many things. Because we're allowing what we see in the situations at hand, because we only have some of the pieces of the knowledge and we don't have the full understanding that God is trying to give us to protect your most precious part, your heart. To protect it and show you that we got to have this. And he forewarned them, because after Adam and Eve, what happened? Man went completely wicked. Genesis 6, he said their heart's full of wickedness. And he sent Noah and preached for 100 years while he built the ark. Couldn't convince none of them. And he destroyed them. Heart problem. Again. Then we go through time, and then he sends Moses. Gives the law, gives all these things. And as you want to go on and read, you can read Deuteronomy 6, verse 1 through 13, as God gives clear instructions of how important it is to get that knowledge deep in your heart. That you've got to, in order to get it, from the time you get up to the time you go to bed, you've got to be speaking it. You've got to be bringing it forth in your mind and your heart. While you're sitting at the dinner table, you got to be talking it. While you're traveling, you got to be talking it. It's got to be written on your forehand. It's got to be written on your forehead. It's got to be taught to your children. It's got to be written on your gates. It's got to be written on your posts. It's got to be constantly around you is what he's saying, because he forewarned them, said, if you do not get this deep down in your heart,